In a quiet corner of the galaxy, far from Earth's bright blue skies and bustling cities, an alien diplomat named Calivor stood face to face with Daniel Carter, Earth's ambassador to the stars. The room was dimly lit, its walls glowing faintly with strange patterns that pulsed like living things. Calivor's voice trembled as he leaned closer to Daniel. "For the sake of everything sacred," he said urgently, "keep your human battleships out of this war." Daniel blinked in surprise. Humanity had only begun exploring beyond its own solar system a few decades ago. They were newcomers to the vastness of space, still learning how to navigate the complex web of alliances, rivalries, and ancient grudges among the stars. Earth had no armies stationed on distant planets, no colonies caught in crossfire, and certainly no reason to involve itself in someone else's fight. Yet here was Calivor, pleading as if the fate of the universe depended on it. The alien's large, dark eyes locked onto Daniel's. "You don't understand what you're dealing with," Calivor continued. His tone was low but intense, each word heavy with meaning. "This isn't just another skirmish between empires. It's something much bigger, something older than either of our civilizations. If you bring your ships into this, if you take sides, there will be no going back." Daniel frowned, trying to make sense of the warning. He had heard rumors about growing tensions between two powerful factions, the Varnath Dominion and the Zorath Collective, but nothing concrete enough to warrant such alarm. To him, they were just names, distant players in a game humanity hadn't even joined yet. Still, Calivor's desperation was hard to ignore. Back on Earth, Daniel wasted no time sharing the message with General Rachel Monroe, head of the United Nations Space Defense Council. She listened patiently as he recounted every detail of his meeting with Calivor, her expression unreadable. When he finished, she let out a sharp laugh. "Sounds like fear-mongering to me," she said dismissively. "We've got bigger problems than some alien squabble light years away." But Daniel wasn't convinced. Something about Calivor's words stuck with him, gnawing at the edges of his mind. What if the alien was right? What if humanity's mere presence in the galaxy could tip the scales of a conflict they barely understood? Determined to find answers, Daniel suggested sending a small reconnaissance team to investigate. Reluctantly, General Monroe agreed. The mission fell to Captain Lisa Harper, a seasoned officer known for her calm under pressure and sharp instincts. Her ship, the *SS Odyssey*, was one of Earth's most advanced vessels, equipped with cutting-edge sensors and stealth technology. Alongside her crew of 12, Lisa set course for the edge of the contested region, where reports indicated recent clashes between the Varnath and Zorath forces. As the *Odyssey* approached the area, the view outside the cockpit windows turned grim. Space debris floated silently against the backdrop of endless blackness, shattered hulls, twisted metal fragments, and eerie clouds of frozen gas. It looked like the aftermath of a massacre. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. This wasn't just a border skirmish. It was a full-blown war zone. While scanning for any signs of survivors or usable intel, the crew detected a faint distress signal coming from nearby. Following the source, they discovered a lone escape pod drifting aimlessly through the wreckage. Inside was a man, or at least something resembling one. His features were human enough, though his tattered uniform marked him as part of the Varnath military. When the pod opened, the man staggered out, clutching a data tablet tightly in his hand. "My name is Ethan Drake," he rasped, his voice hoarse. "I defected. You need to listen to me." Before anyone could respond, he collapsed onto the floor, unconscious. Lisa exchanged uneasy glances with her second-in-command, Lieutenant Alex Morgan. Who was this man, and why did he look so much like them? Whatever his story was, it seemed clear he had information worth hearing. As the crew secured him in the medical bay, Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was only beginning, and that Calivor's warning might hold more truth than anyone realized. Ethan Drake woke up in the medical bay of the *SS Odyssey*, his head throbbing and his body aching from days spent cramped inside the escape pod. The bright lights above him made him squint, and for a moment he wasn't sure where he was. But then he saw Captain Lisa Harper standing nearby, her arms crossed and her expression unreadable. Beside her stood Lieutenant Alex Morgan, who looked at Ethan with clear suspicion. "Welcome back," Lisa said calmly. "You've been unconscious for nearly 12 hours. Ethan blinked, trying to focus. His voice was weak as he spoke. Where am I?" "You're aboard the *SS Odyssey*, a human ship," Lisa replied. "We found your escape pod drifting in space. Care to explain why you look so much like us?" Ethan hesitated, glancing between Lisa and Alex. He knew trust wouldn't come easily, especially not from strangers in the middle of a war zone. But he also knew he didn't have time to waste. If what he had discovered was true, and he was almost certain it was, then Earth was already in danger. "My name is Ethan Drake," he began again, sitting up slowly despite the protests of his tired muscles. "I used to serve in the Varnith military. I defected because I learned something they didn't want anyone to know." Alex stepped forward, his tone sharp. "And we're supposed to believe you. You could be lying. Or worse, you could be a spy." Lisa raised a hand to silence him, but kept her eyes on Ethan. "Tell us what you know," she said simply. Ethan took a deep breath. "The Zorath are building a superweapon. It's unlike anything anyone has ever seen, a machine capable of destroying entire star systems. They call it the Annihilator. And if they finish it—" He paused, his voice dropping. "Earth will be their first target." The room fell silent. Lisa's face remained impassive, though her mind raced with questions. How did Ethan know this? Why would the Zorath target humanity when Earth hadn't even taken sides in their conflict? And most importantly, could they afford to dismiss his warning as paranoia? Alex broke the silence. "That's ridiculous. Why would the Zorath care about Earth? We're just a minor species compared to them." "They don't see it that way," Ethan replied quickly, leaning forward. "To them, Earth represents untapped resources and potential allies. If they can eliminate you now, before you grow stronger, they'll do it without hesitation." Lisa studied him carefully. There was sincerity in his voice, and fear in his eyes. Whether or not he was telling the truth, one thing was clear: he genuinely believed what he was saying. Still, she couldn't take his words at face value. "Not yet. What proof do you have?" she asked. Ethan reached for the data tablet he'd been clutching when they found him. "This," he said, handing it over. "It contains schematics, coordinates, everything I managed to steal before I left. The weapon is being built near the Vega system. You'll find all the details here." Lisa accepted the tablet cautiously and turned it on. The screen flickered to life, displaying complex diagrams and technical specifications. She didn't understand half of it, but the images alone were enough to make her stomach churn. If even a fraction of what Ethan claimed was true, humanity was facing a threat far greater than anyone had anticipated. Alex leaned over her shoulder, scanning the data. "Even if this is real," he muttered, "what are we supposed to do about it? We're outgunned and outnumbered. This isn't our fight." "It is now," Lisa shot back, her voice firm. "If the Zorath are planning to attack Earth, we can't sit back and wait for it to happen. We need to warn our people and figure out how to stop them." Ethan nodded gratefully. "Thank you for listening. I know it's a lot to take in, but please, don't underestimate them. The Zorath aren't just ruthless. They're desperate. They'll do whatever it takes to survive, even if it means wiping out entire civilizations." Lisa stared at the tablet again, her thoughts swirling. She wanted to believe there was another way, some diplomatic solution that didn't involve violence. But deep down, she knew better. In space, survival often came at a cost, and humanity might soon have to pay its dues. As the *Odyssey* changed course toward Earth, Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that bringing Ethan aboard had been both a blessing and a curse. He carried vital information, yes, but he also brought danger closer to home than ever before. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain: Earth's quiet days among the stars were over. When the *SS Odyssey* returned to Earth, Ethan Drake became the center of attention. News of his claims spread quickly through the United Nations Space Defense Council, sparking heated debates. Some members saw him as a savior, someone who had risked everything to warn humanity of an impending threat. Others viewed him with suspicion, convinced he was either a liar or a spy sent to manipulate Earth into joining a war that wasn't theirs. Daniel Carter found himself caught in the middle of the chaos. As Earth's ambassador, he felt responsible for ensuring the right decision was made. He believed Ethan's warning deserved serious consideration, but convincing others was proving difficult. General Rachel Monroe, in particular, dismissed Ethan outright. "He's a deserter," she said during one tense meeting. "How do we know he's not just trying to save his own skin?" Despite the skepticism, Daniel insisted on giving Ethan a chance to speak directly to the council. The session took place in a large conference room filled with officials from every corner of the globe. Cameras recorded every moment, and the tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. Ethan stood at the front of the room, looking nervous but determined. He laid out his story carefully, explaining how he had served in the Varnith military before defecting. He described the Zoreth's desperation, their dwindling resources, and their growing determination to dominate the galaxy. Then he showed them the data he had brought back, the schematics of the superweapon, its location near the Vega system, and projections of its destructive power. The council members listened in stunned silence, their faces pale as they absorbed the information. When Ethan finished, there was a long pause before anyone spoke. Finally, one representative asked, "Why should we trust you? How do we know this isn't some kind of trap?" Ethan sighed, lowering his gaze. "I can't prove it beyond what I've already shown you," he admitted. "But ask yourselves this. Why would I come here if I didn't think Earth was in real danger? If I'm lying, then I've put myself in the hands of people who could easily turn me over to my enemies. That's not something I'd do lightly." His words resonated with some, but not all. General Monroe remained unconvinced. "Even if this is true," she argued, "we don't have the resources to fight a galactic war. Our best option is to stay neutral and focus on defending ourselves." Daniel disagreed. "Staying neutral won't protect us if the Zoreth decide to attack," he countered. "We need to act now, before it's too late." As the arguments raged on, Captain Lisa Harper watched quietly from the sidelines. She had grown closer to Ethan during the journey back to Earth, learning more about his life and motivations. He had shared stories of his time in the Varnith military, describing how propaganda had shaped soldiers' views of the Zoreth as monsters. Yet he also admitted that neither side was truly righteous. Both were driven by greed and desperation. Lisa admired Ethan's courage, but she couldn't ignore the risks involved in trusting him. If the Council decided to act based on his information, it could drag Earth into a conflict it wasn't prepared for. On the other hand, ignoring his warning might leave humanity defenseless against a catastrophic attack. Amidst the uncertainty, President James Hartley called for a recess. "Let's take some time to review the evidence and consult our advisors," he suggested. "This isn't a decision we can rush." During the break, Lisa pulled Daniel aside. "What happens if they don't believe him?" she asked quietly. Daniel shook his head. "Then we'll have to find another way. But I won't give up without a fight." By the end of the day, no final decision had been reached. Ethan returned to a secure facility where he waited anxiously for news. Lisa visited him later that evening, bringing food and updates. They talked for hours, discussing strategies and sharing fears. Despite everything, Ethan seemed hopeful. "You're doing the right thing," he told her. "Even if it feels impossible, standing up for what's right always matters." Lisa smiled faintly, though doubt lingered in her mind. Whether humanity chose diplomacy or warfare, one thing was clear. The choices made in the coming days would shape the future of the entire species. The next morning, the United Nations Space Defense Council reconvened to make a final decision about Ethan Drake's warning. The room buzzed with tension as officials reviewed the data he had provided and debated their options. General Rachel Monroe pushed hard for immediate action, arguing that Earth needed to strike first before the Zoreth could complete their superweapon. "If we wait," she said sharply, "we'll be sitting ducks. We need to send our battleships now and take out that weapon before it's ready." Daniel Carter stood up quickly, his voice firm but calm. "Attacking without understanding the full situation is reckless," he argued. "We're talking about entering a war between two alien empires who have centuries of history we barely comprehend. If we act too soon, we could make things worse, not just for us, but for everyone involved." The council members exchanged uneasy glances. They were divided, torn between fear and caution. Some agreed with Monroe, believing aggression was the only way to protect Earth. Others sided with Daniel, urging patience and diplomacy. The discussion dragged on for hours until President James Hartley finally intervened. "We need more information," he declared. "Captain Harper, I want your team to investigate further. Go to the Vega system and confirm whether this superweapon exists. If it does, report back immediately. And remember, do not engage unless absolutely necessary." Lisa nodded, accepting the mission despite the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders. She knew the stakes were high, and failure wasn't an option. As the meeting ended, she met briefly with Daniel and Ethan to discuss the plan. Both men expressed concern about sending her into such a dangerous area. But Lisa reassured them. "It's my job," she said simply. "Besides, if anyone can handle this, it's us." Before leaving, Lisa assembled her crew for a briefing. Lieutenant Alex Morgan voiced his doubts openly. "What if this is all a setup?" he asked. "What if the Zoreth are using Ethan to lure us into a trap?" "It's possible," Lisa admitted, "but we can't afford to ignore the risk. If there really is a weapon capable of destroying star systems, we need to know. Our job is to gather intel and stay safe, not start a fight." With preparations complete, the *SS Odyssey* launched toward the Vega system. The journey took several days, during which Lisa spent hours reviewing Ethan's data and planning their approach. When they arrived, they cloaked the ship and began scanning the region. What they found chilled them to the bone. Hidden within an asteroid field was a massive construction site teeming with activity. Ships moved in and out, delivering materials while workers labored tirelessly. At the center of it all loomed a colossal structure, a machine unlike anything they'd ever seen. Its design was sleek and menacing, bristling with energy conduits and weapon arrays. "This has to be it," Lisa whispered, staring at the image on the main screen. "The superweapon." Alex leaned closer, studying the details. "It's even bigger than Ethan described. If that thing fires, we're looking at total annihilation." Lisa felt a knot tighten in her stomach. There was no denying it now. The threat was real. But before she could decide what to do next, alarms blared throughout the ship. A Zoreth patrol had detected their presence despite the cloak. "Everyone, brace yourselves," Lisa shouted as enemy ships closed in fast. Thinking quickly, she ordered her crew to retreat deeper into the asteroid field, hoping to lose their pursuers among the rocks. For several tense minutes, they dodged blasts and debris, hearts pounding as destruction rained down around them. Finally, they'd managed to break free and slip away undetected. Once they were safely out of range, Lisa turned to her crew. "We've seen enough," she said grimly. "Time to head home. Earth needs to know what's coming." As the Odyssey sped back toward Earth, Lisa couldn't shake the image of the superweapon from her mind. It was a reminder of how small and vulnerable humanity truly was in the vastness of space. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same again. When the *SS Odyssey* returned to Earth, Captain Lisa Harper wasted no time delivering her report to the United Nations Space Defense Council. The room was packed with officials who leaned forward in their seats, their faces pale as Lisa described what she had seen in the Vega system. She projected images of the superweapon onto a large screen, pointing out its size, complexity, and obvious destructive potential. "This isn't just a threat," Lisa said firmly. "It's a countdown. If that weapon becomes operational, Earth won't stand a chance." The council erupted into chaos. Some members shouted for immediate action, while others argued for restraint. General Rachel Monroe seized the moment, slamming her fist on the table. "I told you we couldn't wait," she snapped. "We need to mobilize our fleet now and strike before they finish building it." Daniel Carter stepped forward, his voice cutting through the noise. "Attacking blindly will only make us targets," he insisted. "We don't know enough about their defenses or how many ships they have guarding the site. We could lose everything in one reckless move." As the debate raged on, Calivor, the alien diplomat who had first warned Daniel, suddenly reappeared. His arrival silenced the room. The tall, slender figure moved slowly toward the council table, his expression grave. "You must listen carefully," he began, his voice calm but urgent. "There is another way." All eyes turned to him. Calivor explained that a fragile coalition of neutral species had been working behind the scenes to mediate peace between the Varnath Dominion and the Zorath Collective. They believed the war could end without further bloodshed, if humanity played a crucial role. "What do you want from us?" President James Hartley asked cautiously. Calivor hesitated before answering. "Years ago, the Varnath stole advanced technology from your people, a prototype energy shield capable of rendering entire fleets invincible. That shield could tip the balance of power and force both sides to negotiate. Without it, neither faction would risk escalating the conflict further." The room fell silent as the weight of his words sank in. Humanity had long forgotten about the stolen prototype, dismissing it as a minor loss during early space exploration. Now it seemed it might hold the key to averting disaster. General Monroe scowled. "And where exactly is this shield? Even if we find it, why should we hand over our technology to aliens?" "It's not just about them," Daniel interjected. "If giving them the shield stops the war, then it protects Earth too. Isn't that worth the risk?" The council spent hours deliberating, weighing the pros and cons of Calivor's proposal. In the end, President Hartley sided with Daniel, believing diplomacy offered the best chance for survival. "We'll retrieve the prototype," he announced, "but we do it carefully and peacefully." With the decision made, Lisa was tasked with leading the mission to recover the stolen shield. It was stored in a heavily guarded Varnath outpost deep in enemy territory. Breaking in wouldn't be easy, but Lisa knew failure wasn't an option. As she prepared her crew, Ethan Drake approached her, offering his help. "I know the layout of that facility," he said quietly. "Let me come with you. I can guide you through." Lisa hesitated, knowing the dangers involved. But she also knew Ethan's knowledge could make all the difference. After a long pause, she nodded. "All right, but stay close and follow orders." The night before departure, Lisa found herself staring at the stars through a window in the command center. The enormity of what lay ahead weighed heavily on her mind. If they succeeded, they might prevent a galactic catastrophe. If they failed, well, she didn't want to think about that. Ethan joined her, breaking the silence. "You're doing the right thing," he said softly. "Even when it feels impossible, standing up for peace matters." Lisa managed a small smile. "Let's hope so," she replied, "because we're running out of chances." As dawn broke, the *SS Odyssey* launched once more, heading straight into enemy territory. Whatever awaited them, Lisa was determined to see the mission through. For Earth, for the galaxy, and for the slim hope of a better future. The *SS Odyssey* approached the Varnath outpost under cover of darkness, its cloaking device masking its presence as it slipped past the first line of defense. The facility loomed ahead, a massive structure surrounded by jagged rocks and swirling dust clouds. Lights glowed faintly from within, casting eerie shadows on the barren landscape. Captain Lisa Harper studied the scene carefully, her mind racing through the plan one last time. Ethan Drake sat beside her, his eyes fixed on the outpost. "We'll need to land here," he said, pointing to a narrow canyon that led directly to a service entrance. "It's less guarded than the main gates." Lisa nodded, turning to address her crew. "All right, listen up. We move fast and quiet. Stick to the plan, and don't engage unless you have no other choice. Our goal is to get in, grab the shield prototype, and get out before anyone knows we're there." Lieutenant Alex Morgan frowned but kept his doubts to himself. He had never trusted Ethan completely, but even he couldn't deny the man's knowledge of the facility. Still, something about this mission felt off, as if they were walking into a trap. The team disembarked near the canyon, moving cautiously through the shadows. The air was cold and thin, forcing them to rely on their suits' oxygen supplies. Every step echoed faintly against the rocky walls, making Lisa hyper-aware of every sound. She glanced at Ethan occasionally, watching for any signs of hesitation or deceit. So far, he seemed focused and determined. When they reached the service entrance, Ethan worked quickly to disable the lock. His hands moved with practiced precision, and within moments, the door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the corridors were dimly lit and eerily silent. The group moved swiftly, following Ethan's directions toward the storage vault, where the shield prototype was kept. As they neared their destination, Lisa noticed an increase in activity. Guards patrolling nearby, sensors scanning the area. They crouched behind a stack of crates, waiting for the coast to clear. Ethan whispered urgently, "We're almost there. Just a little farther." Suddenly, an alarm blared, shattering the silence. One of the guards must have spotted them. "Move," Lisa shouted, leading the charge toward the vault. Behind them, shouts erupted as Varnath soldiers gave chase. Ethan punched in a code at the vault door, which opened just wide enough for them to slip inside. Inside, the prototype sat on a pedestal, encased in a protective field. "I can disable it," Ethan said, working furiously at a nearby console. Seconds later, the field flickered and vanished. "Grab it and let's go," Lisa ordered, but as they turned to leave, the room filled with enemy troops blocking the exit. Trapped, Lisa realized they had only one option left: destruction. "We can't let them take the shield back," she said grimly. Pulling out a small explosive charge, she set it near the vault's core. "Everyone, fall back." The explosion rocked the entire facility, sending shockwaves rippling through the outpost. The team sprinted toward their extraction point, dodging falling debris and enemy fire. As they reached the canyon, the *SS Odyssey* descended to meet them, its engines roaring as it hovered just above the ground. They scrambled aboard, slamming the hatch shut behind them. Moments later, the ship lifted off, leaving the burning ruins of the outpost behind. Exhausted but alive, Lisa collapsed into her seat, clutching the shield prototype tightly. Ethan looked at her, guilt etched across his face. "I'm sorry I got us into that mess," he said quietly. Lisa shook her head. "You did what you had to do, and now we've got what we came for." But as the *SS Odyssey* sped away, alarms began flashing again. A fleet of Varnath ships appeared on the horizon, pursuing them relentlessly. The message was clear: Earth's involvement had been discovered, and the galaxy would never be the same. The *SS Odyssey* raced through space, its engines pushed to the limit as Varnath ships closed in from behind. Red warning lights flashed across the cockpit, and the hum of enemy weapons charging filled the air. Captain Lisa Harper gripped the controls tightly, her knuckles white, as she maneuvered the ship through a narrow asteroid field in an attempt to lose their pursuers. "Shields are holding, for now," Lieutenant Alex Morgan reported from his station, his voice tense. "But if they hit us again, we're done." Lisa didn't respond. Her focus was razor-sharp, every instinct honed by years of training. She dodged between massive rocks, using them as cover while the Varnath fired relentlessly. Explosions lit up the darkness around them, sending shockwaves that rocked the ship violently. Ethan Drake sat silently in the corner of the cockpit, gripping the armrests of his seat. He knew this was his fault. The raid had exposed Earth's hand, and now both sides would see humanity as a threat. The guilt weighed heavily on him, but there was nothing he could do except hold on and hope they survived. "We're almost clear," Lisa shouted over the noise. Just ahead, the asteroid field opened into empty space, a chance to make a run for it. But as they emerged, more Vernath ships appeared, cutting off their escape route. "They're boxing us in," Alex yelled, panic creeping into his voice. "We can't outrun them." Lisa's mind raced. They couldn't fight. They were outnumbered and outgunned. Their only option was to use the prototype shield Ethan had risked everything to retrieve. "Alex, activate the shield," she ordered. "Now." Alex hesitated. "We don't even know if it works." "It's our only shot," Lisa snapped. "Do it." With trembling hands, Alex connected the shield prototype to the ship's systems. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a shimmering barrier enveloped the Odyssey asterisk, glowing faintly blue. Seconds later, a barrage of enemy fire struck the shield, lighting up the hull like fireworks, but the ship held steady. "It's working," Alex exclaimed, relief flooding his voice. "We're safe inside the shield." Lisa allowed herself a brief smile before refocusing. The shield gave them time, but it wouldn't last forever. She plotted a course toward Earth, pushing the ship to maximum speed. Behind them, the Varnath fleet broke off their attack, unable to penetrate the shield. But Lisa knew this wasn't over. They had made enemies today, powerful ones. Back on Earth, news of the raid spread quickly. General Rachel Monroe wasted no time exploiting the situation. Standing before the United Nations Space Defense Council, she demanded immediate retaliation against the Varnath. "They attacked one of our ships without provocation," she argued fiercely. "This is an act of war, plain and simple. We need to respond with force." Daniel Carter tried to counter her, urging caution. "We don't fully understand what's happening yet," he pleaded. "Rushing into battle will only escalate things further." But Monroe's fiery rhetoric won over many council members. Within hours, she received authorization to deploy Earth's battleships against the Varnath. The first wave launched immediately, targeting key installations along the edge of contested space. As the attacks unfolded, the Zorath Collective watched closely. At first, they assumed Earth had sided with the Varnath, given the proximity of the strikes. But when reports confirmed otherwise, outrage swept through their ranks. Both factions accused Earth of betrayal, shattering any lingering hope of neutrality. Kelvor vanished once again, leaving humanity to face the consequences alone. Daniel felt a sinking dread as he realized how badly things had spiraled out of control. What had started as a mission to prevent war had instead ignited a much larger conflict, one that threatened not just Earth, but the entire galaxy. On board the Odyssey asterisk, Lisa stared at the stars ahead, her heart heavy with regret. She had wanted to protect Earth, not drag it deeper into chaos. Beside her, Ethan looked equally troubled. Neither of them spoke. Words seemed inadequate in the face of what they had unleashed. When they finally arrived back on Earth, they were greeted not as heroes, but as harbingers of disaster. The fragile peace Daniel had worked so hard to build was gone, replaced by a storm of accusations and hostility. Humanity stood on the brink of something far greater than itself, and there was no turning back. Amidst the chaos of Earth's escalating involvement in the Galactic War, Ethan Drake found himself consumed by guilt. He had hoped his actions would prevent disaster, but instead, they seemed to have made everything worse. The Varnath and Zorath were now united in their anger toward humanity, seeing Earth as a dangerous wild card that needed to be dealt with swiftly. Ethan knew he couldn't sit idly by while the galaxy burned around him. One night, unable to sleep, Ethan slipped into the secure lab where the prototype shield was being analyzed. The scientists working on it were exhausted but relentless, trying to unlock its secrets. As Ethan watched them tinker with the device, something caught his eye. A small data chip embedded in the shield's casing. It hadn't been noticed before because it blended seamlessly with the design, but Ethan recognized it immediately. This wasn't just a shield, it was also a storage unit for classified information. Ethan carefully removed the chip and inserted it into a portable reader. What he discovered shocked him to his core. The superweapon being built by the Zorath wasn't designed to destroy planets outright. At least, not in the way everyone thought. Its true purpose was far more insidious. It was a terraforming machine capable of altering entire worlds to suit Zorath biology. Any species unable to adapt would be wiped out in the process. Ethan realized this changed everything. The Zorath weren't simply conquerors, they were desperate survivors, driven to extreme measures by centuries of resource depletion and environmental collapse. Their goal wasn't domination for power's sake, it was survival at any cost. If humanity could expose this truth, it might shift public opinion against continued warfare and force both sides to negotiate peace. Determined to act, Ethan sought out Lisa Harper. She was in her quarters aboard the *SS Odyssey*, reviewing reports from the front lines. When Ethan burst in, his face pale and his hands trembling, she knew something was wrong. "What is it?" Lisa asked sharply. "I know why the Zorath are building the weapon," Ethan said breathlessly. "It's not what we thought. They're not trying to destroy planets. They're trying to save themselves. And if we don't stop this war soon, billions of innocent lives will be lost." Lisa listened intently as Ethan explained the details. Her mind raced with possibilities. If they could broadcast this information across the galaxy, it might turn the tide. But getting close enough to the Zorath communications hub to transmit the message would be nearly impossible and deadly. "We'll do it," Lisa said finally, her voice firm despite the weight of the decision. "If there's even a chance, this can end the fighting. We have to take it." The next day, Lisa assembled a small team for the mission, including Ethan and Lieutenant Alex Morgan. Though skeptical, Alex agreed to go along, knowing how high the stakes were. Under cover of darkness, the *Odyssey* approached the Zorath-controlled region, avoiding detection by flying dangerously close to a neutron star's radiation field. The journey was grueling, but when they arrived at the communications hub, the facility appeared lightly guarded, almost too easy. As they infiltrated the structure, Ethan guided them through its labyrinthine corridors. They reached the main control room without incident, and Ethan quickly uploaded the data onto the network. However, just as the transmission began, alarms blared throughout the complex. Reinforcements were closing in fast. "We need to move," Lisa shouted, grabbing the data chip as a backup. But as they turned to leave, a squad of Zorath soldiers blocked their path. Ethan stepped forward, raising his hands in surrender. "Go," he whispered to Lisa. "I'll hold them off." "No," Lisa protested, reaching for him. "There's no time to argue," Ethan said firmly. "Get the message out. That's all that matters." Reluctantly, Lisa nodded and led the others toward an escape route. Behind them, Ethan faced the soldiers alone, buying precious seconds with every step he took. By the time Lisa and her team reached the ship, the transmission was complete, but Ethan was gone. Back on Earth, the broadcast spread like wildfire. Both the Varnath and Zorath populations turned against their leaders, demanding answers and calling for peace. For the first time in decades, hope flickered in the darkness of space. But as Lisa stared at the stars, she couldn't shake the image of Ethan's final sacrifice, or the knowledge that humanity's future remained uncertain. The broadcast of Ethan Drake's discovery sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The truth about the Zorath's superweapon, that it was a terraforming device, not a planet killer, sparked outrage among their own people. For years, the Zorath leadership had justified their actions by claiming they were fighting for survival against an existential threat posed by the Varnath. But now, faced with evidence that their leaders had manipulated them into supporting a war of conquest disguised as necessity, the Zorath populace rose up in protest. On the other side, the Varnath Dominion found itself in a similar predicament. Their propaganda machine had long painted the Zorath as ruthless invaders bent on destruction. Yet the revelation that the Zorath were desperate survivors, pushed to extremes by environmental collapse, forced the Varnath citizens to question everything they had been told. Both factions began demanding accountability from their governments, and calls for peace grew louder by the hour. Back on Earth, the impact was equally profound. General Rachel Monroe faced intense scrutiny for her role in escalating the conflict. Accusations flew that she had acted recklessly, dragging humanity into a war without fully understanding its origins. Public opinion turned sharply against her, and she was soon summoned before a tribunal to answer for her decisions. Meanwhile, Daniel Carter became a voice of reason, advocating for diplomacy and urging humanity to learn from the mistakes of the Varnath and Zorath. Kelivor reappeared unexpectedly during this turbulent time, stepping forward to mediate between the warring factions. His presence brought a glimmer of hope as he worked tirelessly to broker a fragile ceasefire. Representatives from the Varnath, Zorath, and Earth gathered aboard a neutral space station to negotiate terms. It was a tense and often hostile process, but the shared desire for peace kept the talks alive. Lisa Harper attended the negotiations alongside Daniel, serving as Earth's military liaison. Though haunted by Ethan's sacrifice, she remained focused on ensuring humanity's future would be secure. During one heated session, Lisa addressed the assembled delegates. "We've all made mistakes," she said, her voice steady despite the weight of emotion behind her words. "But we have a chance now to fix them, to choose cooperation over conflict. Let's honor those who gave everything for this moment." Her speech resonated deeply, earning nods of agreement even from former enemies. Slowly, grudgingly, the Varnath and Zorath leaders began drafting a tentative peace agreement. Key provisions included dismantling the superweapon, establishing resource-sharing programs to prevent future crises, and creating a coalition of neutral species, including Earth, to oversee compliance. As the final signatures were placed on the document, a somber sense of relief settled over the room. The war wasn't over entirely. Old wounds ran deep, and rebuilding trust would take generations. But for the first time in decades, the galaxy had a path forward, one built on dialogue rather than destruction. In the days that followed, Lisa returned to Earth, where she struggled to adjust to life after the mission. She visited Ethan's memorial, a quiet corner of a park dedicated to fallen heroes, and left a single flower in his honor. "You did it," she whispered softly. "You showed us another way." Though Ethan was gone, his legacy lived on. Humanity emerged scared but stronger, vowing never again to repeat the cycle of fear and violence that had nearly consumed the galaxy. And somewhere beyond the stars, Kelivor watched silently, knowing the fight for peace was far from finished, but believing, perhaps for the first time, that it was possible. In the months that followed the ceasefire, Earth began to rebuild not just its cities and fleets, but also its relationships with the galaxy. The fragile peace brokered by Kelivor and supported by humanity's efforts became a turning point for all species involved. Yet it was clear that trust would take years, if not generations, to fully restore. For now, the focus shifted toward healing wounds and ensuring that such a devastating war would never happen again. General Rachel Monroe faced severe consequences for her role in escalating the conflict. She was stripped of her rank and placed under investigation for misconduct. Many saw her actions as reckless and driven by ambition, while others argued she had been misled by incomplete information. Regardless, her fall from grace served as a reminder of the dangers of rushing into war without understanding the full picture. Daniel Carter, on the other hand, emerged as a hero, not just for his advocacy of diplomacy, but for standing firm when it mattered most. He became a key figure in shaping Earth's new role in the galaxy, working closely with Kelivor and other neutral species to establish what came to be known as the Galactic Peacekeeping Initiative. This organization aimed to mediate disputes, share resources, and prevent future conflicts before they could spiral out of control. Daniel often thought of Ethan during these meetings, wishing he could have seen how much his sacrifice had changed the course of history. Lisa Harper chose not to return to active duty after the negotiations ended. Instead, she dedicated herself to training the next generation of officers, teaching them about leadership, ethics, and the importance of understanding their place in the universe. She believed that humanity's survival depended not on superior weapons or technology, but on wisdom and compassion. Though she missed the thrill of exploration, she found purpose in preparing others to face the challenges ahead. The *SS Odyssey* remained a symbol of hope, its name forever tied to the mission that exposed the truth and helped end the war. It was retired from service and placed in a museum orbiting Earth, where visitors could walk through its halls and learn about the bravery of those who served aboard it. Among the exhibits was a tribute to Ethan Drake, a holographic display showing his final moments and the message he fought so hard to deliver. Ethan's story became legend, told across planets and cultures as a testament to courage and selflessness. His decision to defect, risk everything, and ultimately sacrifice himself inspired countless individuals to seek peaceful solutions rather than resorting to violence. Even among the Varnath and Zorith, once bitter enemies, his name was spoken with respect. As time passed, humanity grew stronger and more confident in its role within the galactic community. Earth opened its doors to refugees fleeing devastated worlds, shared agricultural techniques to help struggling colonies thrive, and contributed innovations to improve life for all sentient beings. Slowly but surely, humans earned a reputation not as warriors but as builders, people who sought connection over division. Kelivor eventually disappeared once more, leaving behind only a brief note thanking humanity for its part in forging peace. Some speculated he had returned to his own people, others believed he continued traveling the stars, searching for new ways to promote harmony. Whatever the truth, his influence lingered, reminding everyone that even in the darkest times, cooperation was always an option. One evening, Lisa stood on a hill overlooking Earth's capital city, now illuminated by millions of lights stretching far into the horizon. The sky above shimmered with stars, each one representing a world connected by fragile threads of hope. She thought of Ethan's final words, tell them we're better than this." And for the first time, Lisa truly believed it. Humanity and the galaxy had proven capable of rising above hatred and fear. They weren't perfect, and challenges still lay ahead, but they had taken the first step toward a brighter future. As Lisa gazed at the heavens, she felt a quiet sense of pride. In the vastness of space, surrounded by infinite possibilities, humanity had chosen to believe in something greater than itself, and that, she realized, was worth every struggle.